Darnell Washington is not a man amongst boys. Darnell Washington is a Viking amongst men because the Georgia Bulldogs recruit superior athletes. They recruit just the freakiest football players, guys who can do it all. You got people like Broderick Jones out there. You got people like Amarius Mims out there. You got people like Darius Smith out there. You got people like Aaron Smith out there. Georgia has freaks. Darnell Washington is a unicorn. He is. I'm just gonna say it. He's kind of a unicorn. I think. I think he could have. I mean, I think he could be a really good NFL tight end. I really do, and I think the Georgia Bulldogs are going to really miss him because Georgia, like, how much Darnell Washington mattered to these championship teams goes understated, and excuse me. I think for a handful of players it goes understated. For Darnell Washington, it certainly does, even though you know, he was a fan favorite, I would say. I think that a lot of the players were pretty popular, but I think Darnell Washington was a fan favorite. Big O, if you have a nickname, you're probably a fan favorite, right? You're 6'7", you're 264, wearing the number 0, playing tight end, being an extra tackle, and being a guy that could catch it with one hand in stride, being a guy that can hurdle you, being a guy that can truck you. Darnell Washington was underutilized in the passing game, but was a very, very important player for the Georgia Bulldogs over their last 2 championship runs and their Peach Bowl run. I believe I have a picture of the Peach Bowl up behind me. The Peach Bowl against Cincinnati. He did not play in the Peach Bowl against Ohio State. If I don't recall. His combine numbers, ridiculous. His eye test, ridiculous. I think the leadership is something that you don't get to watch on the field all the time. And, I have a little tidbit that's actually in Double Dogs. And so if you haven't had Double Dogs and you actually have read my story in Double Dogs about the Missouri game, Darnell Washington is an important piece of that story and what Georgia was able to accomplish after halftime in the second half, comeback win against Missouri. Darnell Washington was a big part of that. I think that the Dogs are going to miss him. Ryan Curley from Dog Post talking about Darnell Washington, these Georgia tight ends. Oscar Delp is a really good tight end. He's a really good tight end. I think he's someone that has NFL potential as a football player. But Darnell Washington is Darnell Washington. Oscar Delp may be a better pass catcher, maybe faster, maybe a better route runner, all that stuff, but he cannot block the way that no one in the Georgia tight end room can block the way that Darnell Washington could. He was the ultimate teammate. I'll just read a little bit. I'll go ahead and read. It's in the Missouri story. If you haven't seen that, here's some images. Here's kind of what the inside of Double Dogs looks like. If you haven't seen that, and let me find this part. If I can't find the quote, that's okay, but here we go. And this is my own writing. The Bulldogs were losing the trench battle on both. At this point, they're down 16-6.5. The Bulldogs were losing the trench battle on both sides of the ball. Georgia was in need of a leader. Darnell Washington stepped up to the plate and delivered a message at halftime to his teammates. So Kirby Smart says this. People don't give the guy a lot of credit, but Darnell was one of those leaders in the locker room who said, I want to run the ball, get behind me, let me move people. Georgia's down 16-6 at halftime against Missouri, and Darnell Washington goes into halftime and says, get behind me, let's move these people. And they did that. Kenny McIntosh, Ken Lamell, and Dejan Edwards. I think it's some of the hardest running that I've seen from any of them was against Missouri in the second half when it really mattered. And Darnell Washington was a spark in that. In that game, there's another play that stands out with Darnell where someone comes flying. He gets the ball, he catches the ball, and someone comes flying to pop him, and they pop him, but that person bounces off of Darnell, right? So, and I've talked about that before. He hurdles people. Look at the Oregon game hurdling people. Look at the Kentucky game in 2021. The hurdle. The dude just wants to hurdle people. He can stiff arm you. He runs a 4.64 at those measurements. His athleticism score was a 91. So essentially he's the second-rate tight end according to these combine numbers, right? The one-hand catches. I saw him make a really nasty one-hand catch. He had a nice one-hand grab at Pro Day. It's just what this guy does. He puts, he's a guy that was a top 10 recruit, listed as an athlete, and came to Georgia and was selfless, right? The tight end in the class under him, Brock Bowers, ended up being stealing the show and the star and being the guy they get the ball to. And I don't think Darnell Washington says anything. He just wants to play football. He wanted to make it to the NFL. He wanted to win games at Georgia, and that's what he did. And I think that people like that are the people that get missed the most. Darnell Washington, I would consider him to be a damn good dog just based off of what we know. Nolan Smith is Nolan Smith, and he'll be remembered for a lot of things in the leadership. I think Darnell Washington needs to be remembered in that sort of light. I think that he's one of those players that the stuff that they're going to do on the field with him is, I don't know how you replace it. I think that these guys behind him are good. Delp, Lucky, Sperlin just got hurt. Guys like that, and they'll have more in the future, but you can't replace a guy like that very easily, and I think that is going to be a tough thing for Georgia to do in 2023. Ryan Curley here again. Double Dogs. You can also get dog instruction too if you want it. That is still available. Red Zone, DoorDash, newsletter, all that is down below. Thank you for watching.